everyone. Welcome back to Talkoffame podcast. I'm certainly so excited to introduce you to Gill Hasson. Jill delivers teaching and training for educational, voluntary, and business organizations, as well as the public sector. She has 25 years of experience teaching and writing on a range of personal development issues and is the author of 30 books. Thank you so much, Jill, for joining us on Talkoffame today. I really
Uh,
appreciate you coming on taking the
Well,
time.
thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
So to start this off, you have more than 20 years of experience teaching and writing on a range of personal development issues. What type of development issues do you write about specifically? Because of course, everyone writes so many different things, but what do
Yeah.
you usually write about?
I write about personal development issues, such things as building your confidence, assertiveness, emotional intelligence, positive thinking. They're just a few of the, and actually they're all related. They're all these sort of issues that are very much integrated and related to each other. I write a lot about mindfulness. I've written several books on mindfulness. Sometimes people refer to me as an expert on mindfulness, and I often think, No, I'm not." But actually, I've written quite a few books on mindfulness now. So, yeah, I feel maybe I am an expert. But the books I also write are not just for personal development, but they're for it's for your all areas of your life. My books, they're for into to do with careers and working in business organizations. So in fact, I've written a book on career development, how to get ahead in your career, or how to choose a career, and also around work issues. Together with a friend and colleague, Donna Butler, I've written a book on mental health and well-being in the workplace.
Ooh, I actually checked that out, that book, like over the last couple of days since I was like researching your work, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is something I need to bring up because I know a lot of people deal with mental health. And personally, I know mental health has gotten so big with the pandemic, and
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
tons of people since then are talking about it. But with your mental health book, like tell us more about that.
Okay, so it's a book that myself I so it's called Mental Health and Wellbeing in the Workplace. Wellbeing is something that I'm most interested in and know a lot about. It's related to people's personal development and their happiness and realizing their potential and staying balanced. And then my friend and colleague, the other author, Donna Butler, she's a registered psychotherapist. So she's much more aware and an expert on mental health issues. So it sort of came together nicely that actually my editor asked me if we'd write a book together where I would look at the sort of softer stuff around well-being, and Donna would discuss the type of things that affect our mental health.
Like, did you ever think about researching well-being, or was it kind of like with that your editor like kind of mentioned to you? Because I know with if it's something like with well-being, I would never have done anything that revolves well-being. I'd be like, okay, I know what well-being is. Well, I never do anything about it. But it was kind
Well,
of that moment where you're just like she told you to kind of research, or it kind of was your own instinct, and then she kind of brought it
well,
up.
yeah, it was because it was more related to the sort of things that I already write about and teach about. So, the book is sort of divided. It has two sort of streams or lines to it. On the one hand, we start by looking at what mental health and well-being are. The fact that, well, quite simply, if you take the World Health Organization's definition of mental health, it's an ability. A good mental health is an ability to enjoy life and have the resources to draw on to manage life's ups and downs
Mhm.
without feeling overly stressed. So we start by sort of looking at what mental health and well-being are. We discuss that a bit more, but then the book looks at, on the one hand, what organizations and businesses can do to help promote, develop, maintain mental health and well-being in their organizations for their employees. But then we also look at what employees themselves can do to help themselves to maintain good well-being and mental health, because it takes both sides to do that. It can't just rely on the organization and the business to do all that for you. It's something that we have to take responsibility for ourselves, not just at work, but outside of work as well.
You are so right because of course mental health can affect people in the workplace and outside the workplace. And
Yeah.
it's something that you kind of address a little bit in your book is that like mental health can affect people a variety of ways, including, in the workspace, at home, wherever, So it's like researching those type of things, whether it's a World Health Organization or different mental health organizations out there, because of course every person defines mental health differently, but it's like, what does mental health mean to you? And that's a question that I ask myself regularly is that like, what is mental health for everyone? Because of course everyone defines it differently, but specifically, how does it impact you in a way? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, so our mental health is it affects the way we experience the world. So it's about how we feel, how we think, and how we behave towards ourselves and other people. So it's very much about our thinking processes. And when we have poor mental health or ill mental health, our thinking is skewed. So we might, let's say anxiety is mental health difficulty that's an issue that a lot of us have suffered from in one extreme or another. And so anyone that's had, really suffered with anxiety, that you the thoughts keep going round and round in your head. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen tomorrow if I can't do this or that happens? I'm concerned about this, I'm worried about that. And that's fine, that's normal to think like that. But the positive, I've learned this from the work I've done on emotional intelligence. The positive in all emotions have a positive intent. Doesn't always feel like it. We talk about negative emotions, but all emotions have a positive intent, and that's to give you a message, to prompt you to do something. So the positive intent, the positive message from anxiety is when you're anxious, you're concerned about something that's going to happen in the future. That might be in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 months. So what that tells you is if you're concerned about something that might or will happen, anxiety is a message from your own brain to, okay, so what can you do to prevent it from happening or to make it have less of an impact on you? But when anxiety overwhelms us and becomes a mental health issue, we just get stuck in it. We get paralyzed with all that. Oh God, what's going to happen? I don't know what to do. I'm really worried. Oh no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to have to stay in. So it's when that's an example of how our mental health, our way of thinking can impact on how we feel, how we behave, and how we live our lives. And it can be, as we all know, when we're, again, take anxiety, when we're overwhelmed with that, it can have a really negative impact on our lives.
It really could, because as someone who deals with anxiety on a daily basis, everything you basically said is well spot on. Is like so of course when I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm not sure if it's say for everyone else's, of course everyone's different. But when I'm having anxiety, whether it's, finding a job or, an interview or something, my mind sits on it. My mind sits on it until it actually happens. And then I just sit in a bubble where I'm just like, nothing matters to me besides this. It's like
Yeah,
either a life or death, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like with the mind, when they make up those experiences, they make you focus on that rather than focus on other things in case
yeah,
that thing doesn't happen. You're
yeah,
gonna be miserable. So
yeah,
it's like, why set your mind on a certain thing that might not happen, not guaranteed, and then once it happens, if you don't get it, you're miserable. And that
Yeah,
is something that I'm just like, I always dread to do. I was like, sometimes I'll get those bubbles. I get them like, depends on the day, but often, what's to say? And I'm just like, Kylie, just step out of it. Focus on something different, but this is not the
yeah,
biggest deal in the world right now,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but that's not easy to do, is it, to focus on
No.
something different? It really I mean, we can do that, but it takes a huge amount of effort, and the more we get anxious, we create neural pathways in our brain where that just becomes our default position, where, yeah, my mother was like this. She was anxious about things all her life, and even when there was nothing to be anxious about, somehow she'd managed to find something because those sort of pathways had been trammeled in her brain. So yeah, it takes a lot of effort to we all get told snap out of it or something like that, but and that's not helpful at all. But actually, that is what we're having to try and do for ourselves. But the more that you can learn and understand about mental health and mental health conditions, it's so helpful. So yeah, understanding a little bit more about how our minds work, about how our emotions work, finding strategies and ways to deal with difficulties that we might be having with our mental health, getting support and help, that's really important as well.
And that is honestly a great topic that I'm glad you brought up. Is as of course with someone that deals with anxiety, I'm always the type of person that hates asking for help, even if it's in bad situations. You would never see me asking for help. And with getting maybe therapy or some things, I literally just had a discussion with a family member this morning about this sort of thing. It's like you should, even if you're in one of those situations where anxiety or depression, either one, it leads you to those mental well-beings for that sort of things. Therapy or journaling or something could be a huge help
Yeah,
for
yeah,
certain people. And with asking for help, that's something I absolutely hate doing. I'd rather pay $1 million than asking for help. I know that's horrible to say, but it's so true. But it's like I know some people are the same exact way that they hate asking for help. They'd rather be alone, figure it out on their own time rather than asking someone to help them on certain things. But it always, it changes for everyone. But with mental health, people can be very sensitive to asking for help as everyone likes to, be everything for a certain person, and it's just too much for something for someone to handle. So it really could develop so much for a certain person depending on how much, they could take in.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the reasons it's not easy always to ask for help is, first of all, mental health is still a taboo subject. It's not something that people really it's got better over the years. Definitely people are more open about mental health and it's talked about a lot more, but it's still something that people don't want to own up to, that they're, if they've broken their leg, they'll say, I broke my leg, and everyone says, oh my goodness, how did you do that? So when we've got a physical problem, often it's fine to talk about that, but when we've got something broken in our minds, we there's a taboo about it. And I think also because you often don't understand it yourself, what's going on. And so you can find it difficult to articulate to somebody else in what way you're struggling. So often we might think, I can't say that it's different if you've had a diagnosis. But then, even then you might think, I just don't want to discuss it. I want to keep it private. I want to struggle on my own. But it's up to each of us, isn't it? And it depends what
Mhm.
support and help you've got out there. There's some fantastic organizations. I think the main one that you have in America, let me think, what's it called? It's called Mental Health America. That's it.
Mhm, yeah.
Um, MHA national.org. They have some, like the same organization we have in here in the UK. We have an organization called Mind.
Mm,
That's mind.org. Oh my goodness, both those organizations, the amount of advice, information, signposting as to where you can get further help. They're both excellent organisations. I really recommend them. And here with our National Health Service in the UK as well, they have a website with all sorts of useful information and advice. So even if you don't want to go and talk to someone about how you're feeling, getting a little bit more informed, yeah, there's some great stuff out there to help.
Ooh, I have to check those organizations out because I never heard of those organizations before, so I had to look into those organizations.
Yeah,
So
I just checked out the Mental Health America organization because I'm here in the UK, but I know that you have that in America, and I just checked it out today actually, and oh yeah, I got quite caught up reading all the advice and information they had there. It's brilliant, so I really recommend it.
I actually didn't know that was a thing. That's honestly
Mm,
horrible, but I had to look it up since you brought that up. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this seems awesome. But
great.
to go back to your book, your mental
Yeah.
health and well-being in a workplace, like how does your book kind of address a variety of issues in terms of mental health in a workplace?
Yeah, well, I think, as I said a bit earlier, first of all, we look at, what is mental health and understanding that and well-being. Let's define that first so that we all understand what we're, what the book's addressing. And then we look at the impact that work can have on our mental health and well-being. Work is good for us. All research shows that. Most of us at some point have had jobs that we've really enjoyed. So yeah, we know that work can be great, but most of us have had jobs and been in workplaces that we really have not enjoyed. So things like a poor working environment, unrealistic deadlines, poor communication, poor relationships with your co-workers, having too much responsibility, a lack of support. These are all things that can impact on our mental health. So we look at that in the book, and then we move on to how organizations and managers at all levels and organizations of different sizes can help to improve and maintain mental health and well-being at work. So those would be things like, well, for a start, it needs to start at the top. It's, you need the CEO of the top managers of an organization to really buy into this, to feel that supporting good mental health is something that they want to do. And then we talk about how you have to take stock. You actually have to look at, well, how is everybody doing? Do we know? Is everybody happy? Is everybody not happy? You have to talk to staff about what's going on. So we have a range of ideas and information about in the book about how to improve and maintain mental health at work. And then we simply go on to, as I said earlier, it's not just the organization and the leaders in an organization who are responsible for your mental health. You are as well. So
Mm.
we look at some ideas and give some advice on how you can improve and maintain your well-being and mental health. And then we move on to what you can do if you are currently mentally unwell. This is assuming that you've had a diagnosis and you've got some support, medical support, but we look at how you can help yourself in the workplace if you have a mental health condition, and we look at how managers can help employees themselves as well. And just one thing to say about that, which is also something that people find really useful, and that's something that's called a mental health action plan, or a well-being action plan. If you go onto the organization here in the UK, mind.org, and put in wellness action plan, this is something that's being used in organizations around the world now. And it's for people, not just if you've got a mental health problem, but it's for all of us to actually sit down and think about what what do I enjoy about work? What keeps me happy? What's good for my well-being? And then thinking about what are the things that don't work for me that could trigger, if you've got a mental health problem, trigger mental health issues. So it's a really good thing to sit down and use, and maybe a lot of organizations do it so that you write it and discuss it with your manager so that they're aware of what works for you and what doesn't work for you as far as your well-being and mental health are concerned at work.
Ooh, that's crazy. Like, as someone that, works a variety of different jobs, I had experienced positive and negative experiences working different jobs. I'm not sure for everyone, of course. Everyone has
Yeah,
negative and positive situations at work, whether it's a nonprofit, being a nurse, or whatever it is they may work. Everyone has different experiences. But I know with working a variety of different jobs, it could be one exhausting, but also it could take a toll on how much you feel supported and also feeling
yeah,
like your work is validated by your coworkers or your jobs or managers or whatever. And that is something that I'm always, looking to like set my mind on and become aware of those type of things. So I know sometimes I'm just like, huh? Like, what is going on, like, in the workplace? But it's like, we're working different jobs. It could take a toll on different on your body, whether it's feeling
yeah,
supported, and it's very valuable to really just be aware for different signs that someone might be unhappy or they're happy or they're stressed. So
yeah,
you can help them is if you help them in the variety of different things. One, it can help them stay longer for this position, of course, but it also makes them feel like they feel supported in
yeah.
what they do, either in person, whether it's their work or outside of work, which is something that I'm glad you wrote about, and that's something I definitely will look into in your book so I know for future use.
Sure, good.
But to wrap this up, like how can people connect with you?
Okay, so they can go to my website, which is gillhasson.co.uk. So that's Gillhasson. So that's Gill Hasson at it's gillhasson.co.uk. Sorry, yeah. And on my website there is my email address. And yeah, I'm always happy to receive emails from people. I often do, wanting some advice or some thoughts to exchange thoughts. So yeah, great.
Yeah, awesome. So make sure to go check out her work. I highly recommend. But I hope everyone enjoyed the rest of your day. And thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to stay tuned for future episodes. We have a lot planned, sadly. Just kidding. But I really appreciate you joining us today and talk with us for a little bit. And I learned literally so much from you. So I really appreciate you coming on to get time.
Thanks, Kylie.